if you have faith, you can be saved, right? Oh, wait a minute. Is it the other way around? Is it that you become saved and then you can have faith? Well, that is the conundrum that we face depending on how we interpret 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14, which is one of the proof texts oftentimes used for Calvinism. On one interpretation of this passage, you cannot understand the gospel. You can't even accept it. You just don't get it completely unless you have been regenerated by God, which of course is one of the primary principles of Calvinism, where God has to regenerate you before you can accept the gospel, and according to 1 Corinthians 2:14, before you can even understand it at all. So the conclusion then would be that we cannot exhibit faith in Jesus until we have already been regenerated. Well, is that what 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14 talks about? One way to find out. Let's go back and look at it. So we are going to go directly there to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. And here's the verse. It says, "But the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, nor can he know them because they are spiritually discerned." So we look at that at first glance, it looks like, wow, we can't know the things of God unless we have been made spiritual, unless we've been regenerated already. And so what does this mean? I mean, if we're going to look at this from a non-Calvinistic mindset, how are we going to do it? Well, to understand this passage, like always, we have to go back and look at context. We always have to understand context. And so we're going to go back to chapter 1, and the whole chapter 1, if you were to look at it, a lot of it anyway, is Paul scolding the Christians in Corinth for their interpersonal schisms. They've been dividing, they're siding with different people, and Paul says, no, I don't want any of that. I did not come to teach you so that you can get in line behind other people. Now keep that in mind, that's very important. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 17, Paul says this, among other things, he says, "For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with wisdom of words, lest the cross of Christ be made of no effect." He's saying, look, don't follow me. Don't follow somebody else. You're supposed to be following God. I, even as the chosen apostle of God, I, Paul, did not come to you with brilliant wisdom of words. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to baptize many people because I was afraid they would start to follow me. So don't even depend on what I, as Paul, the apostle of God, says. I did not come with wisdom of words. I didn't come to try to get you to follow me because of my incredible rhetoric, because I'm such a great speaker. Don't follow me because of that. Don't follow anyone because of that. Paul's goal was not to gain speakers for himself, but to get people to fall in line with the gospel. Paul seemed to think that the gospel is good enough on its own, that the gospel is sufficient. When people hear the gospel, they can say, I will accept it or I will reject it. So that's the thought process. Paul is saying, and as we're coming into chapter 2, he's saying that look, don't follow people, because we didn't come to teach in such a way where you would follow us. We did not come up with brilliant words. We didn't try to have the best rhetoric. All we did is we simply gave you the gospel message of faith in Jesus Christ. Okay, now coming into chapter 2, keep that in mind. And we come into chapter 2 and verses 1 to 5, he says this, "And I, brethren, when I came to you, did not come with excellence of speech or wisdom, declaring to you the testimony of God. For I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I was with you in weakness and fear and in much trembling. And my speech and my preaching were not with persuasive words of human wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, that your faith should not be in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God." Now, these people in Corinth seem to have been pretty impressed probably by wisdom. It was an age of wisdom. Let's use human logic. Let's use philosophy. Let's really try to understand things ourselves. And Paul says, look, we didn't come to you in that way. We did not come to you as people that were just wise, where you're going to say, man, this is the guy with all the degrees. This is a guy who can just think logically through things. Now, I'm not putting down logic. I think logic is great. God gave it to us, and a lot of apologetics uses logic, and I love it, and I'm fine with it. But Paul is saying here, what he's saying is that don't believe the gospel simply because we did such an incredible job teaching it to you. No, you believe the gospel for the gospel's sake. Let the gospel stand on its own 2 feet. Don't just buy into it because we are such incredible speakers. And so then he goes down into verses 6 to 7. He says, however, we speak wisdom among those who are mature. He didn't have a problem with wisdom. He was willing to do it for people who are mature and could understand some things. He said, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, yet not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world for our glory. So he says God had some kind of wisdom out there and man couldn't get it. It was hidden. Man could not use his logic. He could not use his reasoning. He could not use his philosophy to understand this. And he says it was for our glory. God had something fantastic in mind for people, and man in his own reasoning was never going to be able to figure out. And of course, we know by putting the whole Bible together that he's talking about the gospel here. He's talking about salvation by faith in Jesus. And when you do that, he removes your sin and you get heaven and everything. This is something so great, but this is not something we would just come up with on our own. And he says there in verse 8, which none of the rulers of this age knew, this wisdom that comes from the heart of God, of the gospel, which none of the rulers of this age knew. For had they known, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. I mean, if they knew Jesus had come to save them, they wouldn't have been trying to kill him. And so he says, look, it's not human wisdom that we're coming to you with, but God has a secret plan. Look in verse 9. But as it is written, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them, for those who love him. So he says, look, God has given us some incredible, wonderful things, and man could not come up with this on his own. This has to be something that God told us. This is a secret of God that we're not going to be able to figure out on our own. Well, he's actually kind of doing a loose quotation here of Isaiah 64:4. And he's saying, look, there is no man among you who is intellectual enough, who could dig into God's heart to discover the plans that God has for people. We cannot do it. We cannot understand what is in God's heart using all the logic that we have, using all the philosophy that we have, using our incredible reasoning capabilities. We cannot understand on our own what is in God's heart. We could never get the gospel that way. So how are we going to get the gospel? How are we going to find out what's in God's heart? Well, he has to tell us, right? If you want to know what's in somebody's heart, what's in their mind, they have to tell you. Well, it just so happens that God did tell us. So looking now in verse 10, but God has revealed them to us through his Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things, yes, the deep things of God. And so he says, look, how are we going to know the things that are deep in God's heart? How are we going to know the gospel? The only way to know it is for God to reveal it to us. And guess what? He did. He did reveal it to us. He revealed it through Paul, and he revealed it through apostles and through other biblical writers. He revealed these things to us. So Paul is going on, and he's going to stress how important this revelation is. It's the only way for us to know what was in God's heart. Look in verse 11. For what man knows the things of a man except the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, no one knows the things of God except the Spirit of God. How can you know what someone else is thinking? They have to tell you. You might be able to guess. If you know them well enough, you can make an educated guess at what they're thinking, but they have to tell you for you to know for sure what's in their heart, right? And that's what he says, even about God. For us to know anything about what's in God's heart, i.e. the gospel, he has to tell us. We cannot come up with this with our own reasoning. Now, verse 12. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might know the things that have been freely given to us by God. We cannot get there using our own reasoning, using our own spirit. We have to only get there. We can only get there by God revealing these things to us. So he says there, these things we also speak. Who is we? This is Paul and the other apostles. He says, these things we speak, not in words which man wisdom teaches, but which the Holy Spirit teaches, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. And back up there in verse 12, we have received not the spirit of the world. Paul is speaking in the first person there. He's saying we have received these things. We cannot know anything from the mind of God unless he tells us. But guess what? God gave it to us. That is revelation. We gave it to you, and then we speak, as he says in verse 13. We speak these things. We're not speaking to you with human wisdom. We are speaking to you with the revelation of God. This is God's revelation in that first century to his apostles, to his prophets, to tell us the gospel. There is no other way that we can know the gospel unless if God revealed it. And fortunately, he did. Now we come to our verse in question. With all that in mind, Paul says, we're not coming to you in wisdom, because wisdom will not get at the heart of God. Wisdom will not understand the gospel that comes from the heart of God. But he has revealed it to us, and we are teaching it to you. Keep that in mind as we read verse 14. But the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, nor can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. So we have to break this down a little bit. What is the natural man? The natural man, some people want to look at this as the unregenerate man, but Paul is not talking about salvation at all in this passage. He's talking about the gospel, how we know about salvation, but he is not talking about salvation necessarily here. He says the natural man can't know the things of the Spirit of God. In context, he's just talking about somebody using their own logic. This word natural here, it is the word psychikos, which simply means animate. It means you're alive. He's just talking about your normal everyday Joe, okay? A normal everyday person cannot understand what's in the heart of God on his own. It takes a special revelation from God. If God had never revealed the gospel to Paul and to his apostles, to a few select people in that first century, we would never come up with it. I mean, how long do you think it would take humanity to come up with a gospel? If it was up to our reasoning, we'd say, well, look, we're good enough. We could figure this out on our own. If we're going to have some kind of hope for humanity, if we're going to have some kind of salvation, then surely we can do this on our own. I mean, we're going to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. We are going to figure this out on our own. Man in his wisdom is never going to come up with the gospel of Jesus Christ where he paid the debt and then we get off for free. It blows our mind. That's why many people can't understand it. Well, how can it be free? I don't know. I didn't set it up. It came from the heart of God. We're never going to come up with this on our own. God came up with it. We cannot get to the gospel through human reasoning. It has to be revealed to us. And Paul says, God revealed it to us, and we are now giving it to you. The natural man, the ordinary man, the man without God giving him a spiritual revelation is never going to get at the heart of God. He is never going to understand the gospel. He's never going to get the gospel. Paul is not talking about when you hear the gospel, whether you can understand it. That's not anything, that has nothing to do with the subject here. The point is not that when I hear the gospel, I can't understand it until God gives me this regeneration, then I can get it. That is not what Paul's talking about. Paul is talking about how do we even know about the gospel? Well, how do we know about the gospel? We can't come to it on our own. God is just only going to reveal it to a few people who then share it with other people. So God revealed to Paul and some other people, just us natural men, us normal everyday people, we can't get it. We cannot understand what's in the heart of God unless he tells us. So that's the natural man, just the everyday man, just the man who's alive, right? Just the everyday people can't get at what's going on in the heart of God unless if God reveals it. And then it says, they can only know, neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned there at the end of verse 14. This word discerned has the idea of scrutinizing or investigating something. Maybe we could use the word discover, examine something. He's saying that he's not saying there is no way you can even get the gospel, no way you can understand it. And it's like the gospel is given to you. If you're not regenerated, you're like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't resonate with me. That's not what Paul's talking about here. He's saying, look, a natural man isn't going to get in the heart of God and understand some things. God has to reveal it to some people, which he did, because they are, a natural man can't understand them because they're spiritually discerned, they're spiritually examined. The only way we can examine them, the only way we can understand anything about the gospel, the only way we can have the gospel is God revealing it to us. His whole point in 1 Corinthians 2:14 is that you are not going to be able to get at the gospel unless if God revealed it. It's all about his revelation, not necessarily his revelation to you as a 21st century person, but that he revealed it back in the first century. And you can hear it and receive it now, and you can be saved. This passage is not about whether you can understand it when you hear it. This passage is all about God revealing it originally to people. So don't mess this up. If we look at context, it's very clear. Man in his own wisdom would never come up with the gospel the way that God did it. We can never get to the heart of God unless if God revealed it. How can you know what's going on in my heart? I have to tell you. How can we know what's going on in God's heart, the gospel? He has to tell us, and that is what he did. So 1 Corinthians 2:14 is not a proof text for Calvinism. It's simply telling us, how did we get the gospel in the first place? I believe the gospel is sufficient. You hear the message of salvation by faith in Jesus Christ. You choose to accept it or reject it. If you choose to accept it, you're saved. If you choose to reject it, you're eternally damned. So what are you going to do with it? You hear the gospel, you can choose what to do with it. God bless you guys, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Have a great week.